Europe is building payment systems that reduce reliance on traditional American networks. Canada is investing in alternatives of its own. Meanwhile, US companies are caught in a growing battle over an estimated $166 billion in tariff refund claims. What began as a discussion about payment competition is rapidly becoming a much larger struggle over financial sovereignty, economic resilience, and geopolitical influence. Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. While today's story isn't about engines or horsepower, it may reveal one of the most important economic shifts of the decade. Here are the 5 major developments reshaping the global payments landscape. Number 5. The $24 trillion payments powerhouse. Before we examine why allies are investing billions into alternatives, we first need to understand the financial giant they're trying to reduce dependence on. Visa and Mastercard have built 2 of the most influential payment networks in history. Visa processed roughly $16.7 trillion in payment volume during fiscal 2025, while Mastercard remains one of the world's largest payment providers with billions of cards in circulation. Together, they support everything from retail purchases and travel bookings to online subscriptions and international business transactions. For decades, these networks were viewed mainly as commercial success stories. However, recent geopolitical events have changed that perception. Governments increasingly see payment systems much like energy grids and telecommunications networks, critical infrastructure that can influence economic resilience, national security, and strategic flexibility. But recognizing the power of Visa and Mastercard naturally raises another question. What happens when governments decide they need alternatives? Europe's answer is already taking shape. Number 4. Europe's Wero expansion strategy. Europe's response is becoming increasingly visible through Wero, a pan-European digital payment platform backed by major European banks through the European Payments Initiative. Already used by tens of millions of people across Germany, France, and Belgium, Wero represents more than just another payment app. It reflects Europe's effort to build a stronger regional payment ecosystem that can operate independently when necessary. European leaders have grown increasingly concerned about dependence on foreign-controlled payment networks, especially as financial infrastructure becomes more closely tied to geopolitics. The European Central Bank has repeatedly emphasized payment sovereignty and continues to support the development of a digital euro. Importantly, Europe is not trying to replace Visa and Mastercard. Instead, it wants credible alternatives that provide greater flexibility, resilience, and strategic independence. Yet Europe isn't the only close US ally looking for greater financial flexibility. Across the Atlantic, Canada is pursuing a similar strategy through a very different approach. Number 3. Canada's drive for payment alternatives. While Europe focuses on Wero and the digital euro, Canada is pursuing its own path toward greater financial resilience. Canada already has a strong foundation through Interac, one of the world's most successful domestic debit payment systems. However, the country remains heavily dependent on Visa and Mastercard for credit card transactions. To diversify its payment infrastructure, Canada is advancing its real-time rail project, expected to launch in late 2026. The system will enable near-instant account-to-account payments nationwide, reducing reliance on traditional card networks in certain situations. Canada is also reviewing payment regulations and exploring emerging technologies, including stablecoins and new payment service providers. The goal is not isolation, but diversification, creating additional payment options while remaining fully integrated into global trade and commerce. But while Canada and Europe focus on building new payment pathways, the United States is facing a separate controversy that highlights why predictability and stability matters so much in the modern economy. Number 2. The $166 billion tariff refund showdown. While Europe and Canada build alternative payment systems, the United States is dealing with a separate controversy centered on an estimated $166 billion in tariff-related refund claims. Following legal challenges to tariff collections, hundreds of thousands of importers became eligible to seek refunds. The issue affects industries ranging from automotive manufacturing and technology to retail and consumer products. For many companies, the potential payouts are substantial, with some firms eligible to recover hundreds of millions, or even billions of dollars. However, the debate has become politically sensitive, creating tension between shareholder expectations and public scrutiny. Beyond the money involved, the controversy highlights a broader concern: predictability. Businesses depend on stable rules and consistent policies when making long-term investment decisions, making regulatory certainty increasingly valuable. Before we reveal the most important development driving all of these changes, take a moment to support the channel. If you're enjoying these deep dives into the forces shaping industries, economies, and technology, hit that like button, subscribe to Piston Pundit, and turn on notifications. It helps us continue bringing you the stories behind the headlines. Because the real story isn't any single payment platform, refund dispute, or government initiative. It's the broader transformation happening underneath all of them. Number 1. Why allies are quietly seeking more independence. The biggest story is not Wero, the digital euro, Canada's real-time rail, or even the $166 billion refund controversy. The real story is the growing global shift toward resilience. For decades, globalization prioritized efficiency, with countries relying on interconnected financial networks, supply chains, and technology systems to drive growth. Today, governments increasingly want backup systems, alternative suppliers, and additional payment channels to reduce vulnerabilities. This trend extends beyond finance into semiconductors, artificial intelligence, energy security, critical minerals, and telecommunications infrastructure. Globalization is not ending, but strategic diversification is becoming a priority. Visa and Mastercard remain powerful players, yet countries are increasingly seeking alternatives. The future may be defined by multiple competing payment systems rather than dependence on a single dominant network. And when you step back and look at all of these developments together, a much bigger picture begins to emerge. Verdict: the global finance rewiring begins. The developments unfolding across Europe, Canada, and the United States go far beyond payment cards, digital wallets, or tariff disputes. They reflect a broader shift toward economic resilience, strategic autonomy, and greater control over critical infrastructure. Wero continues expanding across Europe, the digital euro remains under development, and Canada's real-time rail moves closer to launch. Meanwhile, Visa and Mastercard still dominate much of the global payments market. The key trend is not abandonment, but diversification. Governments increasingly want alternatives available should economic, political, or technological disruptions occur. The next decade could determine whether global payments remain concentrated among a few dominant networks or evolve into a more competitive ecosystem with multiple options. What we're witnessing may seem like a quiet shift today, but its impact could reshape global finance, trade, and economic strategy for years to come. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think Europe and Canada are making the right move by developing alternatives to Visa and Mastercard? Will diversified payment systems make the global economy more resilient? Or could they create new challenges? And how do you see financial sovereignty affecting trade, technology, and economic growth over the next decade? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.